they don't know where the heck they are on the map, because none of it makes sense. So it's just like, are y'all in some weird purgatory? What is happening? You have so many questions as the viewer that you're just so confused. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl JD here, back with another video, and today we have another TV show to talk about. Okay, I'm on a roll. I've been watching a lot of stuff, so I have a lot of videos that I'm going to be doing in the future, so definitely stay tuned for all of those. Okay, but today we're going to be talking about the show called From. But I actually heard about this show by watching a vlog from, I think it was Shanice Crystal. If you guys don't know, she used to be Being Niecy on YouTube, but now she has Shanice Crystal, which is her main channel, and then also Being Niecy, which is her second channel, if you guys want to check that out. But she does vlog from time to time, and on her latest vlog she had talked about this show and really being into it, and I was like, okay. But she also kind of gave some descriptors about it being a little creepy, a little bit strange, and I was like, okay, seems right up my alley. So I looked up what it was about, and on Google it says the residents of a small town struggle to find a way out when mysterious unknown forces keep them from leaving. And I was like, unknown forces? Like, what are we talking about? So I decided to look at the poster, y'all. It's literally of the main character, Boyd, okay, Boyd Stevens. He's played by Harold Perrineau, who I believe he was in The Best Man. But anyways, Boyd is in this photo and he's looking hella disturbed by the figure, or the ghostly figure that you see kind of peering out from behind. It looks as though it's behind some type of glass, and I'm disturbed, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, well, what type of forces are y'all talking about? Like, I need to know more. So I click on episode 1. It opens up to Boyd ringing this bell, trying to tell everybody in the town to get inside, basically, which I thought was really weird because it was like, why? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening? Everybody's going inside except for this little girl. She's just like, well, could I have a couple more minutes? She's on the swing set, right, outside. And the mom's watching her. And she's just like, yeah, mom, could I just have a couple more minutes? And Boyd's just looking at her and the mom like, you better listen to your mom and go inside this house. I'm still trying to figure out, like, why is everybody rushing to get inside? Why does he have to ring this bell? It was very strange. Everyone goes inside. It's getting dark. The mom is closing these windows, and then we have this whispering thing that starts outside of the kid's window, the daughter's window, and you hear this whispering. The daughter opens the window, and it's this old woman, and the little girl is on the second floor in the house. Okay, so this thing, this old woman figure, is basically just hovering above the ground, looking into this window, talking to this little girl, like, let me inside, basically. And I guess it was her grandmother that had passed away. The mom comes in and she's trying to just cordially be like, hey, you know, so-and-so, talking to the daughter now, like, just close the window, that's not your grandma. But the girl doesn't listen. And she opens the dang window, y'all, to let this thing in, and it just fades to black. It comes in, they scream their heads off, and it cuts to black. This family of 4 that's driving into this town, driving to get somewhere else, but they end up at this town, okay, unfortunately. They're driving this RV with their kids, Jim Matthews, and what's the wife name? Tabitha Matthews. And then you have their daughter and their son, Julie Matthews. Ethan is the name of the son. So Jim and his wife Tabitha, they're trying to drive to some location, okay? They're trying to find wherever it is that they're going. It never gets announced, I don't think, but either way, they get lost. They eventually come to this tree in the road. This tree in the road is very important to the story, and I'll tell you guys why in just a moment. But they get to this tree in the road, and that's when they try to figure out where the heck they are. And I think they also see some black crows hovering above. They're going into town, and they ask, I think one of the people there, I think it was Sarah. Anyways, Sarah is another interesting character, but she's kind of strange. like everybody else in the town, really. As soon as they ask her like, hey, do you know where this and this is, like, where are we, Sarah just looks off into the other direction, like she doesn't pay them any attention. She already knows what's gonna happen, but she just kind of lets it play out. So Jim continues to ride into town to see if he can find anybody else that can answer him about where they are and where they have to go to get back onto the road that they need to get where they're going, right? And he spots some people off in the distance at this funeral, but it was actually the funeral for the little girl and the mom at the beginning of the show. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is so sad and depressing already. Jim comes up to Boyd. Boyd just says, you know, just keep going past the such and such, whatever directions he gave them, you know, just keep going, driving down that road. And Boyd just kind of walks off, and Jim just goes back in the RV, and they continue to drive and drive and drive. And it takes them a little while to figure out that they're driving in circles. And everybody in the town is just watching them continue to drive into the town and out of the town and into the town and out of the town. After the third time that they see them, Boyd decides to put like some tire, I don't know what to call it, but I think it's like tire flatteners or something like that. But anyway, so he tries to get them to stop driving by putting that down on the road. I think his little assistant, Kenny, was kind of helping him do that. So before they even get back into the town of fourth time for them to be stopped, they actually ended up getting into a car accident by two other people. So it was two men. They were super high or super drunk or both, I don't know, but either way they were clearly under the influence of something. Jim decides to, you know, try to make a quick right, and they end up getting into a car accident and flipping off the road. So they're now in this forest, okay, and you know they only have so much time before, like I said, in the evening we find out that these weird creatures come out. The grandma, for example, to that little girl was one of them, but these weird creatures come out, but they have to be invited in, okay? So Boyd finds out. He goes with Kenny to go check on the car accident and see if there's, you know, salvageable things, and also if they're okay. What I find crazy, obviously, is that the people that were driving the RV off the road, they continued driving to the town, and they were pretty much telling everybody like, hey, you need to go check on the accident. That's how Boyd finds out, and then he goes to go check on them. And the driver, anyway, he comes out and he goes to their hospital where he's getting treated. And that's another storyline, but we're gonna talk about that shortly. So now we have this family. They're in this RV that's flipped over. They're trying to get everybody out. But the thing is, the little boy, their son, Ethan, he ends up getting impaled by something in his leg. So they already knew that it was going to take a hot minute to get that thing out his leg. So it was like, either we stay or we leave him. And they weren't leaving this boy. They tell Tabitha and the daughter to just go to the town, but because again they knew that it was going to take a lot longer to get the boy out, they had to stay in that RV, okay, and they had to put this talisman object pretty much in the RV to keep all these monsters and things away, or spirits. I don't even know what to call them. It's just like, are they just chameleon spirits? Like, what's happening, you know? Because they're emulating dead people. So I'm like, what is this? Basically, we get to this point where they're in the RV and they're hearing whispers, and Jim is trying to figure out like, why don't you just answer it? You know what I mean? He's just looking at Boyd like, what's going on? Even though Boyd already explained to him that we are in the middle of this weird town. We don't know how we got here. None of us know how we got here. However, we are stuck. You are stuck, okay? I need you to get that through your thick, meaty skull. It's like, please understand me when I say this. You are not going anywhere. Those things outside are not human, okay? They are coming to hunt us. Right. He was trying his hardest to get past Boyd, bypass Boyd, to get to the things that were outside, whispering things like, oh, do you need help? You should really let us help you. It was really creepy, y'all. It was so creepy. If y'all watched it, let me know what y'all thought of that first episode. But oh my god, that was so weird, because they literally sound just like humans. and they do things and say things to get you to come outside or open a door or open a window, and it's so compelling. Thankfully, they make it until morning and they're able to get to town. But I think Tabitha and Julie, they were definitely traumatized because I think they had gotten back into town from the RV a little later than they thought, and it was getting very close to the time that those things would come out. Thankfully, they got let into one of the shelters, but oh, child. But anyways, yeah, it continues and people are still unraveling secrets about themselves. I really think that the writers did a good job of here and there just inserting the main characters' lives before they got into this town or got stuck in this town. And I think the most interesting storyline is Boyd's. We find out that him and his son and also his wife had actually been driving and they ended up seeing the tree. Okay, so everybody sees this tree in the road before they get stuck in this town. We find out also that everybody comes from different points in the US, but everybody ends up at this town and they don't know how based on the map because it doesn't make sense. So they don't know where the heck they are on the map, because none of it makes sense. So it's just like, are y'all in some weird purgatory? What is happening? You have so many questions as the viewer that you're just so confused. It's not in a confusing way to the point where you don't want to watch it anymore because it's frustrating, but it's more like a, ooh, this is an interesting puzzle that I want to solve. Boyd, he's the main character. He comes in. Father Katrie was actually the one to stop Boyd because like Jim and Tabitha with their family in the beginning in the RV, Boyd and his family, his wife and son, they're in the car and they're pretty much driving around in circles. It's so disturbing how everybody goes to this same storyline. Like they get lost, they see this tree, so they're asking for directions. Someone gives them directions and they just keep going and going, and they're just going in circles, trying to figure out why they keep going in circles. It's just really crazy. But I really like how they did that though. It makes no sense, but it also makes sense all at the same time. But let's continue. So Boyd actually meets with Father Katrie. Father Katrie gives him the directions, and then really close to the evening time, right before it gets dark and right before those things come out, they actually managed to get Boyd, his wife and son out of the car. But they weren't living in houses. They were just living in holes in the ground at this time. And I was like, what in the hell is going on? And eventually, you know, Boyd takes it upon himself because he was in the military. His character is kind of like this, I'm just trying to make sure everybody survives. I'm trying to make sure we get through this so that we can get home eventually. Like he's the one that's carrying on this torch of hope that we'll get out and alive at that. He eventually formulates his plan, getting food because they figured out that these things don't come out during the day. So he's just like, okay, at a certain time, we have to get back in the holes. He's figuring all these things out systematically. And because he's spending so much time, you know, trying to protect everyone, basically his wife starts to lose it, okay? Mentally, she is not sound, and he eventually just goes on this killing spree. He comes back from hunting to get food and salvage things for the community, and she just starts killing everybody. That's what he walks in on. Everybody's dead, she's shooting everyone, and he's just trying to figure out how to calm her down. He's trying to talk to her, but nothing's getting through. And finally, the son comes up. He's trying to also do the same thing. But because his wife is thinking this is a dream and that they are pretty much just gonna wake up and be at home, after pretty much killing everybody in the town, she turns the gun to the son, and the dad just had to take her out. So ever since then, unfortunately, the son wasn't able to really talk to the dad like that. They had a very strained relationship. But thankfully, shortly after that, I think he was able to find the talismans. So he was able to give all the families in the community one of them so that they could have it in their house and keep those weird things at night out. So they didn't have to sleep in the holes in the ground anymore. So he solved those problems, but he ends up making another big problem between him and his son because his son doesn't want to have anything to do with him because obviously he killed the mom. However, it was to protect him. at the end of the day. So yeah, so the son obviously feels very resentful towards his dad for that, and also the fact that the dad did not want to take into consideration what he was saying about his mom losing her mind. He was telling her like, mom is not doing so well, could you check on her, could you help her? And he's just like, she'll be fine, we'll figure it out. And he just kept ignoring it until it really became a problem and she went on a shooting spree. They end up resolving their issues later on, but it's the fact that Boyd handles it so easily, okay, compared to Jim, for example, who is questioning everything, and he's just like, what are you talking about? Just open the RV. Like, they're just asking us if we need help. And it's just like, listen to the people that are from this town though, Jim. There's a reason why they told you to listen, okay? Let's go on to Sarah. So Sarah is an interesting character. Very weird. You could tell she definitely is struggling mentally. She was working at the hospital, and this is when the guys that ran the RV off the road, anyway, one of them, he comes into the hospital because he got pretty banged up. She was treating him, but also ends up killing him by stabbing him, I believe, in the neck. I'm not entirely sure. Either stabbed him or like slashed his throat. I'm sorry to give so much graphic details, but either way, she kills him. And then later on, she hears some voices in her head that basically tells her that in order for her and her brother to get out of this weird hellhole of a town, she needs to open the hospital door and leave it open. So basically, if you leave the doors or windows open, you are giving access to these weird beings, okay, that we still have yet to really name. On Google, they just say strange forces, and I'm just like, what are these strange forces? You know, because they're not people, but yeah. So because of that, she sacrifices the lives of Kenny's dad and then also another nurse. That's when I think the other paramedic, I think it was Christy, she comes in and she finds out that the nurse died, and it was because someone had left the door open. Also, it's really gruesome how they, like, these beings, like how they leave these bodies after they're done. It's like they're just eating them. It's really crazy. I'm like, what is happening? You just like human meat? They're just getting hunted. The entire storyline is just them trying to figure out how to get out of this hellhole, but nobody knows how. But Jade, which is the other drunk person, he finally wakes up from his weird slumber, because he was one of the two people in the car that was high or drunk or both, and he finally wakes up and he thinks that this is a joke. He's treating everything like this is some weird escape room that his friend that is already dead, but he doesn't know that just yet. He's thinking that his friend is just playing a joke on him, that this is some escape room that he planned. And Jade, we find out he's like a CEO of some tech company. He is not accepting that this is real. He does not accept that this is real until he has a conversation with Donna, I believe, which, you know, she has her own interesting backstory. But yeah, Jade is, he's dangerous, very dangerous. But, you know, he has this jump scare moment when he goes into like this hole in the ground and he sees this guy that's underneath this boulder and he's just screaming at him. And he jumps back. And then when he comes to, it's like the image is gone, like the guy's gone, the boulder's gone, and I'm like, what is going on? And it's some weird looking room, and I'm like, is this the answer or is this another cursed place? Like, what is happening, you know? Donna, let's get into her backstory. So Donna, she apparently came into the town with her sister, but unfortunately nobody really was able to stop them like Boyd and Jim was able to. So they actually didn't know anything about the town being cursed, about these monsters that come out to eat people. They don't know anything about this. So they, you know, are driving around and around in circles. Nobody stops them, and it's pretty much nighttime. They see this person in the middle of the road, which, like you probably already know, is not an actual human. It's one of the monsters that look like a person. Basically, Donna's sister comes out of the car to yell at this person to get out of the road. And Donna's sister pretty much gets her face ripped off, according to Donna's story, because we never actually see it, thank God. But yeah, that happens. And Donna is just left without a sister. She has to run off into the forest and hope to God that these things don't come after her. yeah, her story is really tragic. It's really unfortunate that she didn't really get that opportunity to get stopped like everybody else. I don't know what happened to Kenny. I know his dad obviously got killed because Sarah had left the door open. He had to break the news to his mom, Tian, I think is her name. She's supposed to be their like cook. She does like their breakfast and stuff like that. And I'm trying to figure out, first of all, where the heck are y'all finding this food to even cook? Like, please let me know. How the heck y'all finding this stuff? It's not making sense to me. You know what I mean? You can't just go down to the grocery store. You're in the middle of a town, has no way out. You just could come in and that's it. So I'm like, how? You know, it's something that did not make sense to me this entire season. But anyway, so because the Matthews family, they come in and they are now trying to figure out where to stay, where to live. I think Jim and his wife Tabitha and also his son Ethan, they move in together into a house, but their daughter Julie decides to move into like this frat house basically with all these people that are more closer to her age and stuff like that. Later on down the line, they're having this party for one of the girls. I can't remember her character name and it's not on this cast list that I'm looking at the moment, but it was one of the girls that Julie had kind of liked, and I think it was Ellis's girlfriend or something like that. But anyway, so during this party, we actually see this guy a couple of days leading up to it. He'd been talking to one of the monsters outside, you know, that obviously looks like a human. So it would come to him as this girl that obviously is attractive to him, and he starts talking to her because he's lonely and he thinks he's in a relationship, like a full-blown relationship with this chick outside the window. Okay, and clearly we already know this is not real. This is not a real person. After a while, the monster's just like, you know what, I am going to leave because I'm tired of talking to you through a window, right? And this guy eventually decides to let her in. Yeah, he lets her in thinking that she is real. He deludes himself into thinking that she is real. She comes in, they start making out. She starts gripping his back, scratching him, and she's just like trying to pull away, and she basically bites off his tongue. Y'all, I was like so disturbed. I'm like, I can't watch this, but I can't not watch it. I'm like, huh. But there was a lot of blood. She goes to town on this boy and he dies. She lets in all the rest of her monster friends, okay, to go to town on everybody else that's in the house. So they start off upstairs, and that's when Trudy comes in. Trudy walks down the hallway and she sees the same girl laughing at something, and she's just like, what are you laughing at? She comes inside the room. One of the other monsters, you know, from behind the door closes the door, and they go to town on Trudy. And then they continue to the rest of the house, and before they really continue to scream, what gets me is how slowly they move. That's the part that gets me, is that they don't even run because they know they're gonna get you eventually. They don't sprint. They literally move at the same walking pace as the zombies in The Walking Dead. Okay, like they are super slow. It's the confidence for me. I think that's the part that really like has me disturbed the most, is that they don't even walk fast because they know they're gonna get to you eventually, you know? Yeah, they get to the rest of the house, but before that, we see the setting of people sitting on the stairs, and a guy starts to see blood dripping on him. And he's just like, what the hell is this? Like, what's going on? And then it continues to drip, and he's just like, is that blood? Like, what the hell is going on? And then he looks up and he sees on the railing one of the monsters smiling back down at him. That's one thing that helps them to know for sure, like, that's not a real human, is the monsters, they like to smile. It's really freaking creepy. I'm just like, ooh, should we just call them the smileys? Like I said, they walk really slow. Everybody's running out the house, but eventually they get caught. At least some of them anyway. A lot of them end up making it out the house. Thankfully, Julie, I think, was with Victor, and this is when Victor comes in handy because, you know, as creepy as he was, he knew a lot more than everybody else in the house, it seemed. So he was able to get Julie to safety. He put her in one of these like trees that ended up being like a safe house or something. And then after she waited out like the day, she was able to go back to her family. But it was so sad. It was really sad to see all those people die. I was like, really? Just because of one guy? really? So that was definitely a turning point in the storyline. But I think after this, Jade really got really obsessed with the idea of trying to figure out how to get everybody out of this town, how to get out of this town himself, really. And that's when him and Jim, because I think Jim was an engineer, they both tried to come up with this idea to make like this tower at the top of the mansion that they just had this attack in. They tried to get this reception, and lo and behold, they get an answer after trying to say, "Mayday, mayday, we need help, such and such." And oh, it's so disturbing, y'all. Jim gets a response and he finds out that it's literally just someone screwing with him. And I was so sad. I was like, I knew it wasn't gonna be this easy for them to get help, but at the same time, I was like, well, dang, you couldn't give them some type of hope at the end of the season, you know, because I think this is the last episode. He's just like, oh, your wife shouldn't be digging that hole, Jim. And I was like, how do you know his wife at home digging a hole? Because she had started trying to figure out like where the heck are all of these like appliances, because I think Jade was the one that kind of put the idea in her head. He was like, well, where the heck do all of these appliances in the house get power from? It wasn't really making sense. Basically, she was digging this hole trying to figure out like, okay, clearly they're all routed to the ground, you know, like there maybe this ground energy, maybe there's something we don't know that's underground. But anyway, she starts digging this hole and eventually it collapses. This is while Jim is trying to run home to go figure out what the heck this person on the phone is talking about, right? It's really creepy. So he's trying to go save his wife. The ground collapses, she drops to the ground, and that's when Victor comes out of this hole. And I was just like, Victor, what the hell are you doing here? Victor comes out of this hole and he's just like, they told me you'd be here. I was like, who is they? Who is they? I have so many questions about Victor. Victor's character, like, is so strange. I'm like, how do you know all of this about this town? How long have you been here? And then there was also a picture that somebody had found. I think it was Kenny's mom, Tian. She had come in and she was like, oh yeah, that's Victor. Like in the picture, I think Jade was looking at it. And he was just like, oh yeah, that's Victor in the background. And I think this photo was like from the 60s or 70s or something. So it was way back. Everyone was just so confused. They were like, how? But he knows so much. And also, I think Ethan had started seeing a little boy outside of his window after they had that accident. I think Victor was trying to figure out, after Ethan had told him that he sees this little boy, Victor was trying to figure out if this was another monster or if this was like someone helpful. I think there was a mix of bad beings and good beings, if that makes sense, in this realm of weirdness. Victor, you know, he makes a friend out of Ethan because Victor, I think, is a little bit more childlike in his brain, but he's just an adult on the outside. But he's trying to figure out what's going on because I think when he got stuck in this town, he was actually a little boy as well, but I think his parents got killed or something like that. And he had seen this little boy too, the same boy that Ethan had started seeing. And Victor was like, it's been a minute since I've seen this little boy. I haven't seen him in years. So why is he back? It was just a lot of questions, a lot of questions. And I think Victor is going to be the key for them to get out. I think Jim and Jade were trying their best, but clearly that's not the way. But I think Victor knows a lot more. He has the stuff. I'm just gonna wrap up this video by saying that there was an ending where I think Sarah ended up getting caught by Father Patry. Patry had ended up dying the same night that the mansion had ended up getting attacked with all the people. So all the people scattered and Donna was coming to Boyd and Patry with at least some of the people that she managed to round up and get to safety. He ends up getting killed that night, but not before telling Boyd that, you know, he has Sarah in the basement. Okay, he has Sarah in the basement of, I believe, the church. Sarah, you know, admits to killing the people. Okay, she admits to also leaving the door open for the things to come in and kill the nurse, also Kenny's dad. And she also kills her brother by mistake because the voices were telling her that she needs to kill Ethan. Okay, Ethan Matthews had just came in. They were saying to her that you need to kill Ethan now to get out of the town. And it's just like, girl, what? Like, you know? So thankfully she doesn't end up doing that. The brother comes in just in time. However, while he was trying to hold her back from killing Ethan, she slashes his throat with a scalpel. So I was like, what? And anyways, yeah, so she kills the brother, runs off into the bush, ends up getting caught. Sarah is basically explaining to both Father Cottrey and now Boyd, because Father Cottrey dies, like I said. She's trying to explain to Boyd, like, hey, there's a reason why I did everything I did. The voices in my head are trying to tell us, like, how we're supposed to get out of here. Boyd takes Sarah into the woods. They end up staying in this tent, and some crazy things happen. I'm just like, are these aliens? There's this bright light. The tent starts violently shaking, and they wake up in the morning and they don't know what the heck it was, okay, that was shaking the tent. That's another mystery. But then also there's spider webs everywhere. So was it a spider? Was it one of the monsters? What was it? You know what I mean? There was another mystery to be solved. But, you know, Sarah was trying to explain to Boyd, the voices were trying to tell her that they shouldn't have come here. They were wrong and they should not have come there. We end up seeing this lighthouse. After it's morning, they could walk around now. But they see this lighthouse, and that's kind of when the episode ends. The whole season just comes to an end. So I'm very much so trying to figure out what this lighthouse has to do with anything, because it's the first time that I'm seeing it in the storyline. So I'm like, I mean, who's in the lighthouse? What do they do? Who are they responsible for? Questions. This story is proving rather interesting. It was one of those one-off, like this could be really good or really bad type of shows for me. I was like, I'll give it a chance, but it seemed really interesting. It gripped me in from the very first scene of the first episode. I was like, I can't stop watching, but I need to. It's disturbing, but I can't stop, you know? But y'all let me know if y'all seen this show. I haven't heard many people talk about it yet, but that's kind of why I wanted to kind of jump on it and share it with you guys. And if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. But let me know your thoughts if you have seen it already down below in the comments. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.